and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche of the MHRT Network. Over this away, covering his Los Angeles Chargers, is DZ, and man, does he ever have a boatload of news to discuss about his team on today's show, as you
Yes,
may or may
sir.
not have been able to see from the thumbnail that is there. And of course, directly after that, it'll be Jack and my turn to jump into some additional news from our teams, where we're going to start talking about the recap and a look ahead to the very first preseason game for the rest of us, including a joint practice with Jack's favorite team and my Denver Broncos, the San Francisco 49ers, because, I mean, we know Jack just loves the 49ers. See, your home team, right? But anyways, we got Jack down here. We got Jack down here, who's going to bringing us the Las Vegas Raiders perspective here on the show. And we had a guy that's going to start with us from the Chiefs. Not sure if that's going to follow through, but we will have another gentleman or lady hopefully joining us soon to give us the Chiefs perspective in the division shortly. And with that, DZ, take it away with your news and the Hall of Fame game, where your team did rather well. But maybe start with, before we get into that, some of the additional news that has come out for your team, and go from there.
I guess we're gonna rewind this.
Mm-hmm.
So Keenan Allen's back. I mean, I'm sure everybody heard. The fan base is excited, man. They have Slayer back, number 13. It's kind of funny how they did this. It was in talks, and people were like, "Oh, we have some decent beat reporters," and they're like, "Hey, Keenan Allen came in the facility for a workout." And everybody's like, "Thank God it's happening." And then a couple days went by, and I'll get to some more news, which kind of trumped that news. And then the day they signed him, we had our fourth string quarterback, DJ Ugalele. Man, I'm butchering his last name, and I feel bad for it, but it's a really hard last name. He was wearing number 13 in camp, and he came out that day rocking a number 7 jersey, and one of the beat reporters picked right up on it. I think it was Chris Rim, who writes for ESPN, and everybody's like, that meme from The Office popped up. Oh my God, it's happening! It's happening! And literally like a half hour later, the news broke. Chargers signing Keenan Allen on a 1-year deal. I think it's like $8.25 million, and it's great because before they signed him, we had Mike Williams and Jalen Reagor with this group of wide receivers, but Mike retired, and Jalen Reagor has been hurt for what seems like going on 2 weeks now. And those were the vets, right? Because we have a really young weapons core. And him coming back, kind of like, okay, we've got a professor in the building. No, Edward, he's still got juice, bro. He played with the finger paled painting nail guy or whatever, Caleb. I could say another word, but I like to call him. It starts with a G. But anyways, up in Chicago, and he did pretty decent for him up there. But kind of what Edward says is the way they work him with Ladd is going to be weird. That's going to be interesting. But this is a long season. Stuff happens. So it's good to have a vet in there. And I think the goal was to ultimately have him retire as a Charger, kind of like they had Phillip Rivers. And Keenan, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I think he's like 1,300 yards away, and 1,300 yards and some other numbers to pass Antonio Gates for all time. I'm not 100. Someone posted it briefly. I didn't save it. I should have saved it, but it's great to have him back. I don't know if he's practicing today or if they are practicing today. Harbaugh likes to stagger his practices, so I'm assuming today's a late one. I'm on East Coast time, so it's 4:44 West Coast. But yeah. But that news got trumped because I don't think we talked about this. Is because Denzel Perryman, after the Hall of Fame game, decided, which any gun-toting American would, go to the gun range. I mean, it's kind of a jab at Richie, but not really. And got pulled over. For what reason, nobody knows. Nobody knows why he got pulled over in a parking lot on his way to the gun range and got hauled off to the clink. He had 2 ARs that weren't California, like California aligned or whatever. Jack knows because Jack is still currently living in California. And then he had 3 handguns. But I don't think judges must work on Mondays. So he was supposed to get out on a Tuesday and was being held without bail on felony charges for this, which, I mean, it was crazy. We were like, what the hell? Like, Perryman's a good guy. Like, he's been a longtime Charger. He was a Texan. He was a Raider. There was never any drama with him off the field. Then come to find out that the charges were dropped by the DA. I'm sure somebody in the Chargers organization or somebody somewhere came through. The DA dropped it, but then I did hear that I think it was the Inglewood. Man, I forget which police department, but one of the police departments are going to further look into it. But he showed up to the facility on Monday night. But it's been there hasn't been a shortage of news in El Segundo, man. It's been popping, as the kids say.
Yeah, on the piggyback on that, DZ, as someone who's got some of those myself, it makes me wonder like what he actually had and to actually drop it, which is interesting because I mean the law has changed, going back and forth out here based on the firearms and what's compliant, what's not compliant. So it's just interesting that they dropped it. And from what I heard, I spent the whole weekend in jail.
Oh yeah, I think it was the day they got back from Canton, and it was late too. So I'm assuming he's going to an indoor range. Mm-hmm. And he was going to spend up into Tuesday, but they let him go Monday evening after it was dropped. So he would have stayed even longer. But I know that Jim Harbaugh went and visited him in jail, which I thought was really cool. It's good to have your coach has your back, and they're like, he's in good spirits and whatnot. But it's a shame because in Nevada and in Texas, the gun laws are completely different than they are in California. So I'm assuming he was just being negligent about it. California just assumed, I guess those are California compliant, but like you said, Jack, those gun laws change every other week, or it seems like Baskin Robbins over there with your gun laws.
Right. Every single day it's a different flavor, and I agree. It could be anything from having a bolt from the upper to the lower, where it used to be just like a push button, to having a retractable stock, to having more than 10-round clips. It could be something as lame as if it says Colt, Smith, or Panther on the lower receiver, just a word, you can be in violation for that. Those are outlawed in California. So who knows what it is.
Yeah. So somebody made a comment, did the lower have an American flag on it or something? And I thought, I didn't get that at first. And then now that you said that, Jack, that makes sense because it was a joke.
Yeah, it's got to be, I had to replace my lower because, again, it said Panther on it, and I can't have Panther, so I could have either just scraped it off or go out and buy a different lower, which I did just because I wanted to try to stay compliant.
Jack, since California is so crazy, you just need to go out and get something that says pirate.
Right?
because everything
because Panthers is bad, but pirate is good. Welcome to California. And let's not forget, you have a law there, at least that was just recently repealed, that if you stole, as long as it's under $1,000, totally cool. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
So
it's so bad out here. You go to the Walmart or something like that, and you want shampoo, you got to hit a button to get like a service representative to walk over and unlock it to grab shampoo.
By where you live, Jack?
Oh yeah.
Oh
It's
my
pretty much-
God.
Because again, there's a lot of homeless out here, and what Richie just said, hey, if you steal, you can pretty much do whatever you want, and so they're trying to get tougher on that, and who knows? But yeah, it's the governor out here, Gavin is bad.
Jack, let's not forget, we're going to be totally okay with people that break the law and steal things as long as it's under $1,000, because that doesn't matter. But a law-abiding citizen who is going to a gun range and practicing his Second Amendment right, that's right out. You got to stop that crap.
See, I didn't understand, like, why wouldn't they confiscate the weapons? Because he was being compliant and really good with the police. Like, the police even wrote, like, he was very compliant, and so he must have gave them permission to search because he, in his mind, thought he was doing no wrong. I would have thought, like, okay, they would say, hey, these are not legal here. They probably look at his license and it probably says, Texas or Nevada or whatever on it. They go, hey, man, these are not legal here. I know you play for a sports team. We're going to confiscate these. We're going to give you a ticket, and you're going to have to show up in court to try to get them back or whatnot and ship them to a relative or, something like that.
But well, he could be discompliant if those guns were purchased in another state and he brings them to California. You're supposed to register them with the state, what California wants.
Good point. Thanks, Jack. That's a great point. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Which is bogus in itself. You shouldn't have to register anything with any state.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can go on and on about California, but I left that state over a decade ago, and I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what, how that really turns out, and, how he was not in compliance, just based on, being a Second Amendment guy and a gun owner. So I'm really kind of curious with that story. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it sucks. He's one of my favorite players. He's one of those guys from a different era. They're kind of phasing his style of ball out, so it sucks for him because we know he's a good guy. But hey, man, on another note, it was great to actually watch some damn football for once.
I bet.
It was so effing refreshing to just turn on and have a game of two different teams, in a stadium. Now, albeit it was a Hall of Fame game, there's only like 16,000 people there, and the broadcast, God, I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. Oh my God. Every time this guy is on a game, I just want to I don't know, I want to just put hot spoons in my ears or something. He is so effing annoying. I can't wait for that guy to retire and then him be replaced by somebody else. He's just, anyways. It was great. Funny. It was great to actually watch football. And fun note, I heard the Hall of Fame game drew more views than the NBA do in playoffs, than an NBA playoff game or something like that, which just reassures us that the NFL is king in the States, right? Like the NBA, in my opinion, seems like a dying league, even though it's got, its followers. I'm not an NBA guy per se. I do like college basketball. But so overall score 34-7. We don't really keep track of scores, but we do in this game. It was all backups. I know for a fact Detroit was playing what seemed to be like all backups. Like this is their depth. This was the rest of the 22 guys, it seemed, out there, and boy did it show. I think they had like 8 penalties for like 68 yards. We capitalized on 5 turnovers off of them, and it really wasn't much of a game. They had a couple guys that were pretty good. I remember there was a guy who was kind of hoping, like, if we get in late rounds, it was that, I think it's Isaac Tesla that they have over in Detroit. He made a couple good plays for the Lions, but overall, Not a good showing, kind of undisciplined, really surprising, but hopefully this isn't foreboding for the Lions after losing 2 coordinators. Look, one game. I don't want to get crazy here, but I did analyze the best I could. And going back to the broadcast for that game, it sucks when you're watching because you can't really see certain players, and then they'll break away from the game and they'll do like a half-hour interview with somebody, rightfully so. It's a Hall of Fame game. So luckily, there's some great YouTubers out that broke down some All-22 film that I got to check out and do some stuff on that, because right after the game, I got Charger fans. This guy sucked. This guy was great. This guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. This guy's a bust. Both sides of the spectrum. But Trey Lance started, which is surprising, and he looked decent. I wouldn't call him a starter in the league. Harris didn't get any. He didn't really get any shots, and it was Trey Lance thrown to him. So, oh well.
How much playing time did Trey get?
He got the majority of the game. It was like all the way into the second half, like into the third quarter. The DJ, I'm gonna butcher his last name. He took over in the fourth quarter, but Trey was 13 for 20 for like 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a really good passer rating. He had a 5-yard touchdown to Will Dissly and a 15-yard touchdown to KLS, Keandre Lambert-Smith, who looked really good, by the way. So I don't know if Trey's battling for the second spot in the Chargers or they're showing him off to maybe get a draft pick for him, because the Chargers only currently have 6 picks. And this is a QB needy league. And we're already hearing throughout the league of other quarterbacks having issues, having, season-ending injuries or whatnot. So I think Jim is like, hey, let's get you to audition for everybody else. I do know that teams like to carry 3 quarterbacks. You have your emergency quarterback, but the way I see it is Taylor Heineke is that backup, not Trey. Even though Trey looked good, I think they're auditioning him to maybe potentially get a pick. That's just my theory. Kimani Vidal, our last season's 5th-round pick, he scored 2 touchdowns. He looked pretty good. Just reminded me how small he was, but he looked decent. He had some explosiveness to him. The Browns do have 6 QBs. Who else?
So
Randall Tucker Fisk. But what I want to talk about this game is there's 2 guys that stood out to me in this game from that broadcast, and they were both UDFA guys. Richie, I know you like UDF guys. And it was Miles Purchase and Nico Reed. They balled out, man. Miles Purchase made a play that I was like, no effing way did that just happen. Now, I do know who's on the other side, who's playing, but it's still a football game. Kyle Allen threw a deep bomb to one of his guys. I forget the wide receiver's name, and it looked like it was going to be like a touchdown or just shy of a touchdown. And Miles Purchase literally took that ball from his hands and ran it back. And I don't know, let's see, I think it was a 49-yard, intercepted pass for 49 yards. I was just like, I was blown away by it. What a highlight for a UDFA guy, right? Especially on national television. So I thought that was awesome. And then Nico Reed, another UDFA guy. And I'll bring up where he's from. I always, off the top of my head, where these guys, what schools.
Hard to remember all the UDFAs.
Yes,
like where they're from.
But from Oregon, okay, he was a Duck. But this guy had 2 tackles. I think it was 2 or 3 tackles. He had 2 passes defended, and he had an interception. So he stood out for me. And I can actually see Nico Reed becoming a starter if something happens to, let's just say, Cam Hart or Tahib, one of these guys. these teams
Reed was
sometimes
the guy that jumped the pass on the left-hand side of the field, right? As
Yes.
you're watching he was the guy that jumped the pass from like 2 or 3 steps back or whatever. That's him, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
Sorry to interrupt. I
I'm
just want to
hearing.
make sure I got my names right.
No, you're right. Which I've even seen people. He should have ran for 6. I'm like, easier said than done, man. Like, crap happens.
The other guys are football players too. Let's just be real.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And then the Chargers also had, which really boggled me, is we had Tony Jefferson playing some snaps. And Tony Jefferson, if you guys don't know, he's a longtime vet, right? He's been in the league forever. He's 33 years old, and he intercepted a pass in the end zone. And it's just like, there's a lot of funny memes that came out after the game about that. He's like the best guy playing with all these kids or whatever. I don't know why they were playing him out there. Maybe some other guys weren't ready to play a game, safety-wise, but intercepted a pass as well. All that being said, let's see, 34 points, 17 points off of turnovers. I want to say the Chargers maybe got flagged. I think they got 1 penalty that whole game, 1 or 2. I only remember seeing 1. I really want to see
that is just so big. Your defense got 17 points. The Raiders had a hard time. Their offense last year to break 20 points, and your defense got 17. Holy cow!
This was the Detroit backups look like.
I know, but you're playing backups too.
Yeah. So another guy that I'm glad somebody did an all 22 on was Jamari Caldwell, the defensive tackle that we took from Oregon, our 3rd round pick this year. Boy, from the broadcast, you can't tell, but the all 22, they do 2 angles. I think they do a Y angle and they do another angle in the back. God, he looks good, man. He looks like a run stopper. He stays square. He's taking on double teams. He's dropping his knee when he should. He's extending his arms where he needs to be. He's showing power. So that's a good sign to see. Really good, especially a guy that you're going to need this year after the departure of Poona Ford. So really happy for him. But look, it's not all good because Junior Colson, who was my favorite pick from 2 drafts ago, he started in this game, and it was 50-50 for him. And I'd even say maybe 60-40 bad. He looked like he was running with cement shoes. He just was a second or 2 behind on almost every play. And it's unfortunate, but look, there's 3 more games to go. So hopefully they can get him up to speed. And even our defensive coordinator said he did some good, but he also said he did some bad and would like to see him to be more decisive on his decisions, which I would as well, because he's supposed to be the future of that defense as that quarterback in the middle there. So luckily we do have some guys that can play for him, at the start, but this is guys, he's supposed to be future, and we'll see. And, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I just think that linebackers coming out of college to NFL, unless you're like a 1st round pick or maybe 2nd round, it just seems like they need a lot of time to get going in the league. As a Chargers fan, I know we've gotten guys from Ohio State or wherever, and it just seems like it took them 1, 2, 3, 4 years, or maybe their 2nd team for them to get going. I don't know if you guys feel that way, if you guys have had any, rookie linebackers show up year 1 and just ball out. That just hasn't been the way for the Chargers, it seems like, as long as I can remember.
It's getting so diversified now where it's almost like they're almost interchangeable, like linebackers and like safeties, where, they can kind of go either direction, in play that way. So plus, it's kind of over the years, it's been a transition from the big thumpers like a Perryman, who's straight up just a downhill backer, to now the guys are more inclined. You got to run side to side. You got to be able to coverage, better. So it's like, it seems like the linebacking era that we're in is these guys are like trying to find someone who can do so much more than what they had to do in years past. It's just difficult.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's why I think, you see a lot of teams keep a lot of linebackers based on, the down and dirty. Are you going to put a run stopper in there? Are you going to put a coverage guy in there? Are you going to put a blitzing guy in there?
And he's supposed to be a little bit of all. Go ahead, Rich.
I kind of disagree. And by kind of, I mean a lot.
Okay.
Let's say I'd be surprised, but I'm not.
Dude, you've been a fan of the show and seen me enough to know enough that
Colin Cowherd and Shannon Sharp here.
Yeah, I mean, well, Colin Cowherd was a freaking idiot, but still is actually for that matter. He can take the herd and herd right off. But anyways,
actually, I like Colin Cowherd.
Well, he's a fool.
I was thinking of someone else. Who's the other guy with Chris Collins? That's the guy I don't like. Oh, Mike Florio.
Florio.
Colin Cowherd has that punchable face, like the
Florio's smug.
Anyways, but in terms of the league and where we're at, I think that a few years ago, Jack, I probably would have agreed with you. I think that the league was trying to figure some stuff out to try to adapt to the new rules. But I think the college players and the college teams and also the college schemes have adapted enough where younger guys are becoming bigger, taller, stronger, and more athletic coming out of college than they ever have been. So you're getting these 6'3", 6'4", 235, 245 dudes running insane cone drills.
Shuttle drills, cone drills, yeah.
Not the 40 DZ. I'm talking the shuttle and cone drill stuff.
Yeah.
Like the things where
those are more important for defensive players.
Correct, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is that like these dudes are coming in at certain sizes and heights, and you're just saying, I don't understand. Like we used to be excited when wide receivers ran cone drills like that, but now we have like middle linebackers running cone drills like that. And I actually think what the bigger issue here is in college is that you have the diva mentality. I think that some of these inside backers and some of these middle linebackers in college, I think college has a lot of old school style coaches that have either flamed out of the NFL or could never make it to the NFL. And they like to play certain type of old school inside linebacker schemes that some of them translate to the NFL and some of them don't. But as a result, I think these middle linebackers in college, at least some of them, not all of them, but some of them, have this big diva mentality because they're deemed such a big deal in the college ranks because they are more important in the college ranks to cover off that entire middle of the field. At the NFL level now, we are playing so much more nickel and so much more dime that a lot of the inside backers at the NFL level are slightly less important. Not that they're irrelevant, they're just less important. And so I think that what you're seeing ultimately is the really good driven inside linebackers that come into the NFL, I think are better than ever. And then I think you have this middle group that it depends on whether or not they can have a bit of a quote unquote come to Jesus moment, if you will, and wake up and start realizing that, their crap does stink and they need to start stepping it up.
So I don't know why you're saying diva because Colson, Junior Colson's not a diva. But
I'm not saying that he's a diva, but I'm saying they have this mentality that they already have it figured out. They don't need to do the thing; they already know what to do.
So I agree with part of your take, and the part I agree with is I think the majority of college ball is a lot simpler offensively, and it's easier for defenders to read. And now they come to the NFL and they're like, oh shit, why is this guy doing this? And, we got guys going all over the place. Not to say there isn't college schemes, because there are college schemes that are super complicated and, they're more of a pro style, right? I'm just concerned that we're going into year 2, albeit it's one game, it's a Hall of Fame game. So we'll see, we've got a couple more preseason games ago. Like, he looked clunky, and I'm sure, he thought he didn't play as well. So we'll see. I'm not panicking yet. I'm just, like I said, he was one of my guys that I really liked, and I thought it made a whole mess of sense because he was with Jim and that defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter. He was there, green dot in Michigan for their, their national championship run, brought over that same defense to LA, got hurt last year. So I'm like, okay, here we go. He's going to take off this year. I think I even said, like, one of our earlier shows, I'm like, he's like, we did a segment or something on like my guys, and that was one of my guys. And so far, it's not looking like it. But
well, that let me have a follow-up question then to Richie, because I do agree. There's the base defense isn't getting used as much as it was in the past. And if you're talking like a 4-2-5 or something like that, or a dime defense, then you don't need as many linebackers to fill those particular roles. So a lot more guys are sitting on the bench. So it's going to make it even harder if you're not using as many linebackers, to come out and actually play those positions, because it's harder to get on the field. You take your top two, everybody else is just kind of sitting on the bench kicking cans.
So our best linebacker is Deion Henley, and he started out his college career as a wide receiver. Then he moved to safety, and then he translated to transitioned to a linebacker. And then Brandon Staley wouldn't even put him on the field, kept playing Kenneth Murray over him. And Kenneth Murray, if you say that name around Chargers, everybody's like, he was a bust, he was a moron. But Junior Colson is giving me Kenneth Murray vibes, which sucks right now. But look, it's one game, and maybe I keyed in on him. So we'll see this Sunday against the Saints how he looks, if he's playing or whatever. But Deion Henley, his first year under the system, just blossomed. He should have been an All-Pro, in my opinion. He should have been a Pro Bowler, but he's just, we know what the Pro Bowl is now. It's who's got a popular name, who sells the most jerseys. Doesn't mean who's the best players. So we'll see. So yeah, it was a good game.
I still hate that you guys got Keenan Allen back. I really do.
Well,
He's just always played well against the Raiders, and he's such an intelligent ball player. He's got the know. You know what I mean?
He's a Raiders fan at heart, though, in my opinion.
But here's the thing: he in some ways he just can read a defense. He knows, as a veteran, he's always known how to find space, get himself open. And it's like, I've seen him score so many times against my Raiders. It's like, when he left, I was like cheering. I'm like, dude, I'll crack open. Hey, Koenig, yep, right there. I cracked open a sear. I cheered when he was gone. And when I saw that he came back, I'm like, oh no, the red zone. I'm like, him in the red zone. He just has such a good knack for it.
He does. I mean, but look, he's 33. He's getting long in the tooth, and I'm sure they're going to want to bring up these younger guys. But look, they're not paying him $8 million for nothing, so I'm sure they're going to use and abuse him, rightfully so. But there were some other guys in the preseason. I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, but Trey Harris really didn't get going. That was our second-round guy. And Oronde Gasson, I think he caught a pass. Probably had to do with Trey Lance's throwing style, and plus Greg Roman. Greg Roman loves to throw back end zone fades, which most of the time don't work, it seems. And I don't think any of them worked in that game, and he would throw them over and over again. I think I had a Ravens fan said he threw 3 in one game and none of them worked, and they lost that game or something like that. And I don't know. But there were some guys I didn't really see get going, so I'd like to see in the the next couple of games or whatever. But another thing I totally forgot to talk about, you guys, what's going on? Another thing is Zion Johnson. Only made a difference in the ball. Look. Oh man.
I got what you meant.
The other thing that started, which was kind of weird, kind of threw the fan base in a tizzy on the X platform, was they tested out Zion Johnson at center this year, but
They
they didn't
did.
really give him a fair shake at it. They only gave him 2 padded practices, and they did a lot of walkthroughs with him. And look, he had a rough start in the game. He had a high snap and then he had a fumble snap, but after that, he was actually solid. And Jim Harbaugh just came out, like I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and he is a starting left guard, not center. And the fan base is like, what's the definition of insanity? Bringing back those two in the same damn position they were in last year, where they got exposed by the Houston defense and other defenses all effing season long. So, yeah, that's
I can already see what Richie's going to say on this. It's the same thing as like, Labe. If you got a high snap, you turn the ball over, you're done. So I think that's, Harbaugh is just saying, you know what, I've seen enough with that. It looks like you're going to be playing better, which maybe not good, but playing better for your as being a guard than being as center. So we got a $5 super. So salute out to Raiders Family Shield 93 Nab. If you guys haven't seen his show on Raiders Family Shield, please do that. Yeah, I agree with what he said earlier in this one. So, Jack, Tommy Eichenberg is a perfect example of what DZ means. As for a transition, I only expect a Canadian to go to the balls. Not a surprise. Ha, ha, ha. So, you got to poke into at
Raider
it.
Shield, look, it's cool. I appreciate the banter, but you couldn't even spell ha, ha, ha correctly in your super chat. So I guess the Queen's English wins again. I don't know what else to say, but love the super chat, love the participation in the show.
Thanks for the super chat.
And of course, all of the jesting is all in good fun. But yeah, there's plenty of guys that simply don't kind of make the leap from and sorry, Raider Shield family, I refuse to use the word transition and balls in the same sentence. It's kind of weird.
Well, unless you live in California, then your governor is all about it, transition and balls or lack of balls.
I can't even say tranny fluid anymore.
But
it's just
true.
It's a little strange here. But my point I'm making though is my point is that there's a lot of dudes in college that for a plethora of reasons, like literally a plethora of reasons, don't make the leap from college to the NFL. Some of it is work ethic. They're not adapting fast enough by putting the work in themselves in order to go from college to the NFL. Some of it is also the weight room stuff. They're just not used to they're always used to being the strongest and fastest and best athlete in their, say, high schools, for example. And then they translate to college and they're like, yeah, I put in a little bit of work in the weight room just to kind of like bulk up a little bit just because the coaches told me to, but I didn't have to try very hard. I was still one of the best dudes on the field. But then what a lot of these guys fail to remember is that the NFL, even on most NFL teams, there is a real good mix on a lot of teams of not just college ball players, but even small division school players that are just like elite level athletes that just didn't have the funds to get out of their local area. And a lot of these guys are just not used to competing with a true sampling of what is offered just even within the US. But then in the NFL, you're not even just competing with just the Americans. You're competing with Canadians that are coming from up north in the Canadian Football League, as well as reformed basketball and hockey players. You're also getting rugby players that are transitioning over to the NFL. See, there's the transition word there for you, Raider Shield. I helped. And then you're also dealing with then you're also dealing with guys that are coming across the ocean from all the different continents over, Europe and Africa and all those other continents as well, through all the NFL programs. So these guys are just not used to that level of competition. They're just not, and they can't just say, "Oh well, we're good," and that's what they're
Yeah.
used to doing.
It's something that is highlighted for me, especially as a Chargers fan with linebackers. As a young kid, I was used to really good linebacker play. Different era of football, though. This new era, it seems like it's been tougher for them to bring in and find talent with these linebackers, especially with these higher draft picks. Kenneth Murray's a guy I keep going back to. That was a really high draft pick for Tom Telesco. And then the next one being Junior Colson, who I thought was a perfect fit, but we'll see. He's still young. Last year essentially was a wash for him. I think this year is kind of going to be his rookie year, so we'll see how he picks up. He's got more time, but right now I don't see him being a starting linebacker next to Dion. I think that's going to be Troy Dye or it's going to be Denzel Perryman, depending on the situation. But there was one other player I forgot to mention. They showed a real micro version or snap wise for him, and that was Hampton. That was Marion Hampton. He had 3 carries, looked good, but 1 carry he went wide when he should have cut up, and Rocky Sin, or I think it's Rocky Sin, on the Lions made a hell of a tackle on him. Ooh, got him right in the legs, dropped him, made a really good veteran tackle. And clap for him. But that tackle he made, KLS, the guy who did so well, also whiffed on a block in the end zone. So, there's that. But, Marion Hampton should have turned it up instead of going out wide. He'll learn the hard way. And I think he, had his little welcome to the NFL moment on that. But that was the last player, really. Looking forward to get some revenge on Brandon Staley's team this Sunday against the Saints.
Richie, repost that super chat. I guess I said something incorrectly within the super chat, so I want to make sure it's corrected so Nab sees it since he spent his hard-earned money for this. I think I said transition and translation.
You said transition, which made my joke funny. Now you're going to correct it, and that is not cool. But anyways, here it is. I really thought.
Oh, I thought it was funny. That's kind of why I did it too. But I'm going to use that excuse. There you go.
Well, look, Jack, to his defense, has a few strikes against him. He grew up in California. He got
a bad governor. We have transition.
You have a bad governor. And
there is transition in California.
In fairness, in California, you're full of transitions.
Right. Right. So your mind just kind of goes there because that's on the news all the time.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, it is what it is. In fairness, Raider Shield family, thank you for the super. So I'll read it properly because Jack is at a disadvantage. Jack, Tommy Ike is a perfect example of what DZ means as far as a translation. I only expect a Canadian to go to the balls, not a surprise. Ha, ha, ah. And that's the correct interpretation of that particular super chat. And that also includes Raider Shield family's inability to spell ha, ha, ha. So, thank you very much for the super chat again, my man.
I probably got a smoke in one hand, a beer in the other hand, trying to write that. So.
Hey, I'm trying to read it off a phone. Come on. I don't have a computer monitor.
Hey,
but anyways.
Did you guys see the ban on smelling salts?
No.
The NFL bans smelling salts.
Why?
Good question. Because I don't understand why. I didn't think that they're bad. I know they wake people up, but I didn't realize how important they are to a lot of NFL players. Even coaches use them. I know that I heard Kittle uses them on every drive, I guess, or every series, he'll smell a smelling salt. And I know tons of other players use them all the time, kind of wake them up, get them going. I mean, you're smelling a salt, right? Like I've smelt them before. They're gnarly, but they banned them, and I'm like, for what reason? Why? Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not like Stickum back in the 70s, so that doesn't. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah. This league, man, they're doing everything they can to just. Oh God, man, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, man.
I don't know what they're doing half the time either. Maybe Gavin's calling them. I don't know. Shoot.
It's retarded. It's ridiculous. Not a fan. But whatever.
Capital R. But
Oh, and I said that out loud. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. It is. I think that word being brought back into common vernacular is important. It shows that we are progressing as a collective culture.
That was a dark side of our history. We need to get rid of it and bring back. Let's just go.
So anywho, I disagree, but anywho, I think all that stuff should be brought back, and it should just be kind of like sorted out properly without being banned.
Okay.
But,
look at this. I did not know that.
Interesting. I actually didn't know that either.
I did not know that.
So Raider Shield, talking about particularly the last portion there of your comment. What part of concussion symptoms do they mask? I'm trying to figure out what the what actually occurs. Like, how do they actually mask that concussion symptom? Is it because they kind of like jolt you kind of back into some degree of normalcy, or is it that they actually hide the head trauma component of it through some kind of chemical thing? I'm actually quite curious.
I'm gonna buy some on Amazon right now.
Cool.
Like,
you need it, bro.
Okay, so it masks the symptoms of the concussion. So it masks the concussion symptoms, not necessarily through any kind of chemical component or chemical thing. It just basically takes those kind of like in-your-face symptoms away as a result of the jolt that it obviously gives you to kind of knock you back into, being somewhat normal. I guess that makes some sense. But rather than outright ban, why not just not allow the players to go back to their bench or their bag in order to get smelling salts? Like, to me, that would make more sense. Like, you see a head injury, you send the dude to the tent. He gets assessed, and then he goes back to the bench. And if he wants to, jolt himself back into, being awake, that's his choice, right? I'm a big fan of medical choice. If the dude wants to sniff a salt, at least he's not doing like hard drugs or something stupid on the sideline. Who cares?
You guys should see,
or not putting it into the hands of the doctors that they feel like that they need to like wake somebody up. So, because if it is a concussion, you don't want them to fall asleep. You want to wake them up. I don't know.
I just looked up smelling salts on Amazon. You guys should see the packaging and the names of these things. It's pretty hilarious. Like they have like rhinos on them and mastodons, and they look like the monster logo. And so maybe there is some reason why they're banning these things, but the packaging is pretty hilarious in my opinion. So
it almost sounds like a testosterone medication.
Yeah, I mean, we know with those logos that the Bosa brothers definitely don't use them.
No.
That is definitely too masculine.
They came in what was it, Richie? What was he drinking?
Smirnoff Ice.
Yeah, if it came in one of those, maybe.
I mean, if it came in, some kind of a flower rose logo, something that is a little bit more on the, what's the word that ASAP said? Zesty. If it was a little bit more on the zesty side, then I think the Bosa brothers would be all for it.
Dude.
Basically, the Bosa brothers and Caleb are all in the same camp.
Can you see what that looks like, kind of?
Yes.
It's a snowman, a psycho snowman saying it's called Absolute Zero Hype in a Bottle. God, that's the one I'm getting. That's the one I'm getting. And I'm going to be doing smellies. We're going to be doing it live on the air.
That's funny. Anyways, so we covered off the Chargers game, and now we're going to fast forward to our preseason games and joint practices. So last week's show, we talked about joint practices. My Denver Broncos are in a joint practice tomorrow. See, Gavin Newsom shut off his power. He just did not like us talking badly about him. I always knew he was a little bit overbearing and overreaching there in LA. But he's back.
Hey, it was Gavin shutting off my internet again.
Richie called it. Richie called it. Oh man.
Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
Oh, that's funny as hell.
Oh, that's great. Anyways, we've I was just getting into the Broncos joint practice with your favorite team, Jack, the 49ers. We have a joint practice with them tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And then it'll be the first time this year where my Denver Broncos in their current roster iteration are going to be going against a team that is not their own defense. I've heard some super, super interesting takes on this from various folks within Broncos country, some well-respected podcasts, some not so well-respected podcasts, and some in between, as well as just some of the news media in general. I've heard takes anything from, the Broncos are in trouble. We're all going to, pass and perish because we're going to be so badly injured that we're not going to make it through to the season. I've heard everything from that take to the Broncos are going to basically cause Kyle Shanahan to end up in a local Denver hospital because he's going to lose his mind because the Broncos are going to embarrass the 49ers. I've heard kind of everything, from both sides of that spectrum there. Obviously, I'm more somewhere in the middle of that. I think this year my Denver Broncos are definitely a better team than we were last year. I think we are definitely well coached, and I think Sean Payton is going to leverage this particular joint practice as a litmus test to help us eliminate the issues that plagued us last year. First and foremost, fix the penalties, especially those on the pre-snap for the offense. Those are all mental and those are all preventable. And I think that that's going to be a main focus and a huge highlight that I think my Denver Broncos coaching staff are going to be working to eliminate in this preseason joint practice ahead of the Saturday preseason game against the 49ers. And it's okay, Jack, you can get your gear on shortly to kind of show your support for your team. I'll
grab my Raiders Raider symbol CK that I bought at a Raider Niner game.
Right. But yeah, so I think it's just going to be really interesting. I think the 49ers are in a bit of a rebuild year now. Famous last words in that regard, because a lot of NFL teams that are in supposed rebuild years often shock the league in terms of how not rebuilding they actually are. And especially when they're well coached. So we need to be somewhat careful about using that R word for the 49ers. Yes, but I do think that it's a fair generalization to say that the 49ers have lost some of their veteran key defensive starters to
they lost them to your team.
Yeah, they went to Denver.
Two of which to Denver. Another one went to a different team. So in fairness, we didn't take all of the 49ers, cast-offs. But
Debo to the Commanders. Another one.
They lost another key defender, and I just can't remember what his name was.
D lineman?
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
Wait, you guys have a DJ Jones, though, right?
No, but DJ Jones was lost like 2 years ago.
2 seasons ago.
2 seasons ago. I'm referring to a D lineman that was lost, or another key or core defensive player that was lost.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right. I'll find out.
There was 3 of them. There was 3 of them that they lost that were kind of we'll call them
I think
upper
Kinlaw was
tier
one of them,
players.
if I'm correct. Former first-round draft pick. I'm not sure where he went, but
either way, the 49ers are in a bit of a question mark mode, because anytime you get rid of that many key contributors, as well as the veterans that are around them, you always end up in a very big question mark in terms of what you're going to look like as a team. It's just a fact. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Now they do have Hargrave, yeah. So they do have Salah there, who is a well above average defensive coach. He is no slouch. That dude's going to have that defense playing out of their minds. So he will definitely stretch the talent that he has on the defensive side of the ball to look well above what they ought look like given the talent on the roster. But the point is, at what point are they going to gel? Are they going to come out of the gate swinging, or is it going to take a little bit for him to tweak and adjust the defense to make sure that he optimizes with what he has? That's going to be a big question mark for the 49ers.
They lost 3 guys on that D line: Malik Collins, Hargrave, and Leonard Floyd. But
Hargrave.
Yeah, they lost 3. They lost a lot of guys in departure due to cap space stuff. But Richie, going into your guys' joint stuff, I think your guys' secondary is going to have fun because they really don't have any outside weapons right now due to their current health of that wide receiver room. So
it is funny you mentioned that. And this is where I think things might go full circle. Now, fun fact. It was several years ago. I almost feel like a grandfather trying to say these things, but it was several
Pepperidge
years
Farm
ago.
remembers.
Yeah. When I used to walk the hill uphill both ways. But anyways,
Both ways in the snow.
Both ways in the snow.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. But anyways, it was actually at a joint practice where my team was up against and playing with the 49ers. And we came across a young wide receiver that was on the outside looking in by the name of Timothy Patrick. And as the cut deadlines came out, we poached Tim Patrick from the 49ers to come over to our team.
They're going to be poaching you guys now.
Because we were thin at the wide receiver position. Now, fast forward to 2025. We were just talking in the green room.
Yes.
I'm telling you right now that there is about 3 or 4 legit wide receivers that are on the Denver Broncos right now that are in a logjam for the bottom end of our wide receiver room. And to your point, DZ, the 49ers are in like desperation mode for wide receivers.
And you look real quick before you even go on with this, because there's something that popped up in my head. There's a receiver on our team that looks like Cheeks, right? That I think he made 1 catch against Detroit that I could see going. I could see the Niners picking him up just for nostalgic factor because I don't see him making the team. Maybe just getting on the practice squad. And I don't know if you guys remember who's on the Chargers. I doubt it, right? There's so many players on every team. Who was a famous wide receiver who played for the 49ers for a long time? Jack, you know this.
I don't really follow the Niners. You said he's a famous 49er wide receiver. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yes, he played for you guys as well. There you go. Well, Rice's boy is on our team.
Rice, yeah. Did he actually play for you guys? I don't remember. I remember he went from San Francisco to the Raiders to Seattle. He actually stepped on the field for you guys? Dang.
No, his son.
His son. Well, yeah.
Son. So what Richie's saying, I always forget the point, but what Richie is saying, I can see the Niners going like, oh, look, this can get some asses in the stands, a nostalgic factor, get Jerry Rice kind of stuff going on, because he's not making it, on our 53.
He's not going to make it on any of the teams, I got to say.
Richie's also says the Niners are in a bad spot wide receiver wise.
Well, that would make it interesting. Yeah, then, if Richie, again, since your wide receiver core is so deep and their wide receivers core is not, there could be a potential trade, in which is something I'm going to talk about when we get to my Raiders and what trade they had. If
The
you're
only
weak
trade
in one
that-
spot, deep in another one, they could potentially trade versus, having to cut somebody.
No, the only trade that the Broncos would probably, or the Niners might do, is if they want to poach away, like, for example, Vele.
Ooh, God, do not let him get. Well,
Um,
actually, yes, let him get out of the division.
Right?
Get out of
So-
the division.
So I'm about to bring up another guy that we were talking about in the green room. Fans of the show will remember in my UDFA kind of recap for my Denver Broncos, there was a couple guys that I brought up. I had a grouping. Remember, we kind of brought up like guys that we think are going to do really well.
Yes.
Okay, you know that most of my guys were inside linebackers. I had an inside backer. I had an inside backer. I had a wide receiver, and I had an offensive lineman. So Clay Webb was my lineman. I had an inside backer, and then I had a wide receiver. Now, my wide receiver guys I kind of wanted to call out
In
was
the
a guy by the
champagne room.
name in the champagne room, and we talked about it in the champagne room before the show. But I also brought him up on this show to our audience, and that was a guy by the name of Joaquin Davis, and he is a dude from North Carolina Central. He is 6'4" and 195 pounds. Now, that might sound kind of weird because Tim Patrick is 6'4". Tim Patrick is right in the ballpark of 195, like literally right in that ballpark. And I have it on good authority from multiple sources within Broncos country that the Denver Broncos have been intentionally suppressing Joaquin Davis's stellar performance
which is weird.
at basically camp, and in the recent mandatory camps and training camps that we've been going through in the lead-in here. Ultimately, a guy like him is not going to go under the 49ers radar because the 49ers, I promise you, are coming into the Broncos joint practice tomorrow and being like, dude, we need wide receivers. Who does Denver have?
Dude, Joaquin Davis and Thornton might be the same damn guy. What the hell?
We'll see about that.
They're like the same height, almost the same weight. I think Thornton's heavier. They both are 4.3 guys. Like, Joaquin Davis had an RAS score of 9.33. Like, wow. So really, just coming from a HBCU really stunts you coming in the NFL draft, man. Like, they could have got themselves a gem in Denver.
Hey, quick sec. Paul Schaefer. This is a redemption hat. So it's from like one of the first Raider YouTubers when they first got their gear, and I wanted to support the channel. So it's like a first series hat, first edition on some of the first merch that went out for the Raiders. So that's what it's all about.
Oh, I thought that was the capital R for retarded. That's weird.
Reject. Hey, I like that. Respect. There you go.
There's a beer that has that same logo. That R. God, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a beer with that same logo.
Ricker's Red.
Ricker's
Red has that. Ricker's Red has that same R. I have a can that it's got that same kind of like semi-cursive R as their yeah.
I hope we snag Joaquin Davis from you guys. Just kidding. This
but,
guy.
But this is what I'm saying, right? Is that this is a super interesting time of the year for these joint practices, and you almost always see some degree of poaching or some variation of that, which is, the team that you play against picks up one of your dudes that you cut because they've scouted him thoroughly while they were with you, right?
Tale as
So
old as time. Yeah.
Mhm.
it just
Oh,
happens.
Rainier. Thank you, Raider Shield. Rainier. That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay. Ricker's Red has a very similar R at the beginning of their at the front end of their logo as well. I don't know if that's a Canadian beer only, but I think it's in the U.S. as well. So again, wide receiver is a really interesting position for my Denver Broncos. So we obviously have Cortland Sutton, who we just re-signed, who's not going anywhere. Then you have Troy Franklin, you have Marvin Mims, you have Devon Vele, and so you have a pretty kind of logjam stacked, upper portion of the roster now at the wide receiver position for my Denver Broncos. Where it gets super interesting is when you get into wide receiver 6 and potentially wide receiver 7, because there's like 4 or 5 wideouts right now on the roster that are all having comments come out about them at camp. And so the question is this for trade bait to try to get a 7th or 6th round pick to get them? Or is this about, just simply the Denver Broncos just kind of trying to sort out what's going to happen?
Dude, you guys have a solid wide receiver group, man.
Yeah. But, for example, we brought in another guy, Newton, who came in as a tryout guy who was immediately signed as soon as we brought him in as a tryout, which means that, the coaching staff obviously really liked him. We got Schaffer, who came in the offseason, who is a standout special teams player, which is definitely what you need to make the back end of any room in the NFL and any position group on the roster. And then you have Joaquin Davis, who's, again, he's just got these like weird traits, right? 6'4", 195, almost 200 pounds, and runs a 4.3.
And I'm hearing Velcro hands. That's what they're saying. Velcro hands.
Yeah.
Right. And Paul, this is exactly what this comment by Paul is exactly what the quirk is. Yeah, exactly.
That's damn.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So Sherfield is a special teams guy, and we brought him in the offseason. But then the question, Paul, and this is kind of what I was getting at, is, okay, so that's great. Sherfield's a great special teams ace. He's a great special teams guy. But does he have the upside in the wide receiver, like actual at the position that he's on the field at?
That's a good point.
I think Joaquin Davis is the guy. Like, let's put it this way. If you have a UDFA wide receiver and a veteran wide receiver, and they are basically tied, like in terms of scoring, you go with a young wideout who's the UDFA because he's got the upside potential for you. The veteran wide receiver who's never progressed past a special teams ace for another team, as long as the other dude can perform either as well or close to as well on special teams, you always want to go for the upside potential. You want to go for that upside potential. You want to, because you never know when it's going to be important. Devon Vele has had issues with injuries, and Joaquin Davis is a young dude that has not been injured yet. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to or may not or any of those sorts of things. Football's a violent sport, but you want to bring in guys that give you the upside.
It's a good problem to have, Richie.
It is. It's like a tiebreaker could be the guy who does well on special teams, just depending.
Yes, but this is a more interesting problem to have.
You do have a very deep wide receiver room from what you're talking about. So, but
if you got
someone who's cheap, and the guy's like, again, like, a Madden joystick, type toy, and again, it kind of reminds me of Thornton a little bit. Again, being that tall, that fast, and you're getting them on the super cheap. And, if you're hearing from your insiders that they are like holding him back or not commenting on him to release that information, well, that's just kind of telling you right there, like what direction they'll probably end up going.
Right, but this is even more of an interesting conundrum, Jack, right? So like a lot of the times, to your point, and by the way, you're absolutely correct on that assessment, which is when you have this decision of special teams versus not special teams, you're going to always lean towards the dude that can play special teams because that's a bigger boon for your team because you want that special teams player that can actually do well for you, right? So that's a yes, I totally agree with that. But what the issue with this is you've got two special teams guys. And you've got two dudes that are brought in that can play special teams.
Okay, if he can play special teams, then yes.
So now what you're saying is, okay, you've already checked the, what would be the
box.
qualifier for the back end of the roster. Now you're saying, well, who has the bigger upside at your actual position?
Right.
Right. And that's
Agreed.
an even bigger issue that frankly most teams don't even have that as the deciding factor, right? Like most teams just say, okay, the dude sucks at wide receiver, but he's really good on special teams. We'll just keep him because he's really good on special teams. Whereas in our scenario here, from what I'm hearing about Joaquin Davis, is that he's already ticked the special teams box. He's starting to press for like wide receiver playing time. Like actual playing time.
Then it makes 100% sense.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm actually now that you brought that up, I kind of tick marked his name, and if I do see some of your games, and if they even like show that, I don't know if they're going to show. They don't show joint practices, but
they won't show practices. Oh, and by the way, just to make things really interesting, he's wearing number 80, which is Tim Patrick wore 81. And if I'm not mistaken, I think 80 was Julius Thomas.
Yeah. No. 88. No.
88 was Demaryius Thomas.
Demaryius Thomas, yes.
80 was Julius Thomas, who was the tight end, if I'm not mistaken, for my Denver Broncos in that 2013 year.
I like receivers with the 80s. That just brings you back to a different time. It seems they all want to go single damn digit now.
I don't mind like the tweeners, like 10 to 19, because they used to have those back in the day too. Those numbers. Even in the 20s was okay, but it's really getting kind of weird when you see, guys like defensive ends, like, take Micah Parsons wearing number 11. It looks kind of weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
And just one more comment on my Denver Broncos and the joint practice. So we were actually, interestingly enough, talking about transition guys, a Raider Shield that was for you, about guys coming from college into the NFL. And a guy that has struggled in that regard is Drew Sanders. I have said on multiple podcasts, and I will stand by my comment, I believe Drew Sanders for my Denver Broncos has all of the athletic ability in the world, but has simply been unable to translate it into the NFL game.
He's transition to it?
Kind of Twitch. Sure.
And he's dealing with cut right now, right?
But he's hurt. He's injured. He's not going to be playing for a little bit. He's got those issues. But the real issue with Drew Sanders is he's got some fast twitch kind of capability, which means that they wanted to see if he could kind of work out at outside linebacker. But then he was just not able to really hold that position down and outperform or outplay kind of pure outside backers or off-ball backers there at the position. So then Drew Sanders kind of went back to the inside backer position, and he was looking halfway decent, but then continued his trend of just not being able to stay healthy and got himself hurt again. And I kind of see Drew Sanders as kind of the unfortunate football player who's got all the physical gifts, but not the ability to stay healthy. And, we were talking in the green room, DZ, about a guy like Mike Williams, for example. I think that that's another great example of a football player who has got all of those physical gifts and physical ability, but his body just simply would never allow him to play full seasons because he kept on getting hurt. And so
he went on
I think
Twitch.
Drew Sanders is that guy.
Mike Williams went on Twitch like the other night and said, essentially he's retired, but he'll see in a year. So it's like, okay, dude. Like,
just stay retired.
just like either you just hang him up, buddy. You were in 8
That is someone.
seasons.
Yeah, that is someone that is incapable of we the people.
What's up, we?
That is just an example of some dude that is unwilling to just simply accept facts. You know what I mean? That is
Yeah.
someone like
Mhm.
that is an example of an NFL player that still has the mentality that they are an NFL player and hasn't been able to fully process the fact that their body is telling them, "You can't do it anymore, dummy."
Well, even okay. So this is for DZ. So again, having those two wide receivers leave your team and they come back. Okay, I'm sorry. He has no scarability whatsoever. But you bring back a Keenan Allen, that's a huge difference. I mean,
Well, Mike doesn't have with your two teams, but we are missing a representative, and that's who Mike did have. He was his like one of his nicknames was that he was a Chiefs killer for us. Like he did good against the Chiefs.
oh, I
Big
love playing
years,
against them. Not Keenan
yeah,
though.
but no,
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah, man, it's unfortunate. I really like him. He's got good vibes. Seems like a super nice guy. Like, just never was like thought he was the shit or anything like that. It's just, yeah, like Richie was saying, man, his body failed him. And look, he came into the league that way. He came in with back and
He
neck
did.
issues from Clemson. So, thank you, Tom, again for that one.
So I just want to kind of bring back forward some additional names for this upcoming preseason game against the 49ers. So a lot of folks in the mainstream media and frankly in Broncos podcasting spaces have kind of crapped all over the Broncos inside linebacker room and have said, well, Drew Sanders is out. This is doom and gloom. The answer to
What?
that I have is no.
No.
I'm
The
no
answer I
too.
have to that is no. And so Greenlaw got hurt a little bit as well, although the projection for him is he'll be just fine. They're going to slow play him back into his role again, and they expect him to be okay. But there is two guys that I really want to call out on my team that is important,
Schaefer.
and that is a guy by the name of Jordan Turner. He wears number 55. He's a college free agent. He's one of my honorable mentions from earlier in the show, as in previous episodes where I brought up UDFAs for my Denver Broncos. He was brought in as a tryout player and was just lauded as a guy that was just absolutely killing it in all of his tryout practices and everything else.
Okay.
He was also a leading tackler in college football, and I still can't quite figure out exactly why he didn't go drafted. I think there was rumblings that he may have had a minor injury, but that really should not have prevented someone who's one of the top tacklers in all of college football to not at least make it into the 6th or 7th round. Either way, he went undrafted, and my Denver Broncos picked him up. He is on my short list of guys that I think could actually make the 53-man roster for my Denver Broncos at the inside linebacker position.
Well, maybe it goes
Another
back
guy,
to what you talked about with linebackers. I mean, he's 6'1", 231, Michigan State. Good school, too.
correct. Another guy is Karene Reid. That's Karene Reid, Reid. Again, college free agent this year. And he's another one of those dudes where, was overlooked, but he's got all the measurables and has had nothing but great things said about him in all of the camps and all of the practices. And as an aside, because my Denver Broncos have had a storied history of finding elite level players in the undrafted free agent classes that we brought in as an organization. Lavelle Bailey, wearing number 56. There is grumblings that he is pushing for a starting position like today. as a college free agent in 24, so or like last year.
Wow.
And so, if you're getting, let's put it this way, in the worst case scenario, or in the worst case scenario, if a college free agent inside linebacker is a special teams ace, you're normally really happy, right? Like that's normally a great thing for your team. If you end up with an undrafted free agent inside linebacker who becomes your third option at inside backer as a starter and or starts at inside backer for multiple seasons, like you're laughing all the way to the bank at that point because you've killed it in terms of your ability to scout players in that position. And Lavelle Bailey is looking to be potentially closer to the latter than the former, which is unbelievable when it comes to the quality of UDFAs from my Denver Broncos.
Absolutely. Like, especially with your linebackers. I mean, your linebackers are off the charts right now as it is. To hear you say that 2 UDFAs in the linebacker position that have a really good chance to make the team, that just shows you your team knows how to draft linebackers.
Yeah, I wish we did.
Right.
But you saying that, Richie, you guys had your quote unquote first depth chart came out. So, do you see these guys making the 53?
I do, because if you look at the history of what happened last year, Lavelle Bailey was not in the upper tier of the depth chart, and yet he made the 53-man roster and was a key contributor on both special teams and as a rotational player, especially near the end of the season. And so Sean Payton has a bit of a theory. You can agree with it or not. Frankly,
I thought you were going to say sense of humor because I saw the running back depth chart.
RJ Harvey was 6th on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's playing games.
No, but that's his point, though, right? So this is what I was getting at. Sean Payton has an approach. You're a rookie. You are starting at the bottom, whether you like it or not. Earn it.
Work your way up.
Work your way up. Earn it. Show me that you belong higher on the depth chart. Do it. And he'll have these one-on-one conversations with guys to kind of stoke the fire, if you will, right? And I think that's an interest. Yeah, it's all exactly. And I appreciate that as a general approach to things. I think it's an interesting approach, and I think that when you have a coach that is well respected, that approach is also respected from the player perspective. So it shows a level of respect to the veterans that are on the roster and are probably further ahead on the mental aspect of the game, right? I think that's fair. I think that's an absolute fair approach. But then for all of these other guys that are coming in as either UDFAs or whatever else, I mean, Sean Payton's just like, prove it.
All right.
Show me you belong. Show me that you deserve the spot.
I think that's like a certain aspect. That's something that Jim's doing. Not to that extreme that I've seen with Sean. Jim's been doing something similar because, he's putting like certain guys that this fan base really doesn't like, but he's like, look, they're starting and, it's kind of silly when they're like, hey, this is a starter and this guy's depth when, a lot of these positions, it's just like it depends on what time in the game it is or what formation comes out or whatnot. But it seems to irk fans the wrong way. And I think, like QJ being over some of these other guys, fans are like, what the hell? No, this is crazy. So-and-so, KLS or Trey Harris should be up there. But with RJ, that one was kind of funny to me because I'm like,
it's going to change. But I totally get it.
Having him at 5th or 6th, it's like, dude, that's probably arguably this is the best guy you guys have there. It's just, but he's literally just kind of like putting him through this little rookie hazing. Like, hey, dude, if you want to be number 1, you got to show me that you should be number 1.
And that's like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll doesn't care where you got drafted. It's like, if you're on the squad, it's all about the team.
Correct. Correct. Sorry, I also forgot about one of the wideouts on my team who is also in the
Another
conversation
one?
of guys that are just, skyrocketing. Pat Bryant.
Oh, yep. Got him.
I totally forgot to bring him up. Pat Bryant, our third round draft pick in this year's draft. So just to kind of, it's literally kind of an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position, and that's why it's such a difficult thing for the Broncos right now in terms of like how are you going to construct your roster. So you have Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, Pat Bryant, and Troy Franklin. Those are your 5 top wideouts right now.
Solid.
A lot of teams will only carry at most 6, right?
Yeah, 6.
So
yeah.
that means that there's a whack of guys that are all competing for one spot because these other guys have already shown that they deserve basically 1 through 5. So then the question becomes is if the 49ers come knocking, are you willing to then trade a guy like Devon Vele to another team for a reasonable draft pick? I mean, we drafted him in the 7th, and if you can get like a 4th or a 3rd for him,
Yeah, I don't see
then
that.
I would
but
say you
good
take
luck.
that trade all day long. But I'm saying if you get a 4th or even a 5th for him coming from a 7th round draft pick, and then you then keep a guy like a Joaquin Davis, for example, I'm just using him as an example, and then have your pick of a guy like Jerjuan Newton or you have Trent Sherfield, for example, who's
what
a
would
special
Vele
teams ace
have,
as
like
well.
2 more years on his, or 1 more year essentially, or something like that? Because he was U3.
This year and 2 others. So he's a 4-year contract, right? So he had last year, and then he's got
Yeah.
this year, and then 2 others.
I'm doing a flip coin on that, Richie. So yeah, 3rd, 4th, I don't see it. If you're lucky, you'll get another 6 or another 7. Just for the simple fact, if I'm another team and your team is like what we're talking about right now, you've got so many guys. We know you can't keep those guys. Yes, we'll give a late rounder to secure that contract, to secure that player, but you're going to have to make some hard decisions. And, with like the Niners, anybody you cut is an upgrade for that team. So they can have the patience and wait, just like any other team in the NFL that are like needs wide receivers. But no, you can't keep all of them.
We're going to see a lot of action after the first cuts, I'll tell you, man.
Oh, there's going to be tons of action. Wait till all the cuts.
Yeah.
Right, but so this is actually an interesting comment. So this is kind of what I'm getting at, right? We had crap wide receiver play and crap tight end play on my Denver Broncos last year. Fast forward to 2025. J.K. Dobbins comes in. R.J.
Evan
Harvey gets
Ingram.
drafted. Evan Ingram comes in. And then you still have Troutman, who was a solid tight end, but he's not like a world beater. But he's one of those guys that's just he's a lunch pail dude that just doesn't really fail. He's just not an elite level player like a Travis Kelce or Kittle or someone like that. You know what I mean? And so it's an interesting issue to have. And then a lot of guys are kind of forgetting about our 7th round tight end draft pick, who is just an enormous human being at the tight end position, and that's Caleb Lohner.
You've talked about him
He's
yeah.
a basketball convert, just like the Chargers are used to having come into their team and ball out. He's been a red zone threat throughout college, and he's a guy that I don't think would really make it if we were to throw him on the practice squad, because I think too many other teams would be too intrigued by the basketball star turned football player. And I think that he might be a guy that you want to accidentally walk into a brick wall in the facility to throw on IR.
So Richie, so the NFL mandates official roster cutdown day is August 26th by 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be the deadline. So we should see probably from now, essentially throughout preseason, cuts and action moving around. So, like your guy that you're talking about, like Vele, that's a guy you're going to probably want to trade and not cut, obviously. So, because you guys,
Well, I
if you're
don't
seeing,
actually want him to go. I think he was too good last year. He was a phenomenal wide receiver. He was
right,
excellent.
yeah,
And as a 7th round draft pick, like even the 1 year production you got from him, you've already won. Like you already won. Like you're that's a victory as far as I'm concerned already. But the issue here is that he's hurt again. This is the second year now where he's had an injury, and so
we've got
Is
guys too that are nursing
it one that's
stuff.
going to
and
keep
it's
him out for a
annoying.
while, or is it just like a little thing?
He's not like injured to a point where you're going to keep him out for a whole whack of time. You want him to come back, but at the same time, the question is that as good as Vele was, and he was excellent last, like he looked like a polished veteran wide receiver. It was really quite eerie how a 7th round draft pick came into the league and looked like he'd been playing for 3 seasons. Like it was really, really kind of freaky, which is great.
Sometimes
Great problem to
opportunity,
have.
system, everything.
Yeah,
He just
yeah,
fell into the right
great,
system. So
yeah, great problem to have. But the problem here is if you can't stay healthy, if you can't stay healthy and stay on the field, and there's other guys that are showing out in practices and potentially in games, the question then becomes, is it worthwhile keeping a guy that is on and off hurt versus a dude that is showing that, you know, isn't getting hurt and looks maybe to be just as good as, or at least close to being as good?
I think the problem you guys have right now, it's too early to tell, though.
Right.
Like
And that's
Vayner's
why I
only down.
see,
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's too early to tell.
that's why I see. So my honest opinion is what you're going to see from Joaquin Davis and a guy with the last name of Newton. Just to give you an idea, that's number 80 and 81. So Newton is 81, which is Tim Patrick's old number, and 80 is Thomas's old number, not Demarius, Julius Thomas's old number, the old tight end for my Denver Broncos. I foresee you seeing a healthy dose of both of those guys because I think the Broncos really want to see what they're going to look like against stiffer competition. So I think that they're going to be elevated to the earlier stages of the game because they want to know what they have and what they're dealing with. And I think the same thing is going to happen for a guy like Alex Pazlowski, who's going to be the backup right tackle. I think he's going to be playing a good portion of the game to say, dude, if you're good enough, then stay healthy and let's see what you're like. I think Frank Crum is going to be another guy who's going to be playing an extended period of time because the Broncos want to see if he's actually taken those next steps at the NFL level. And I think you're going to see a lot of these guys, the guys that we wanted to see more of last year as Broncos fans. I think the preseason is going to be where Sean Payton's going to throw them into the fire and say, show me what you got, and let's see if we should keep you. And Clay Webb. Thank you, Paul. You're correct. I think Clay Webb is going to be another guy. He's someone who, I'm going to be honest with you, all of my contacts within Broncos country who attend the practices and everything else have not mentioned a lot of his name to me, but we did hear Sean Payton call him out actually in pressers
He's
for
a
quality of
linebacker,
play
right?
and character.
He's a linebacker,
He is an
right?
offensive lineman. He's
Oh,
the
okay.
offensive lineman that I was bringing up in my UDFA guys. Who he was
Yes.
the special
Trench.
Gatorade, the special
Sometimes.
Gatorade.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. I was trying to be like, yeah, and then I got that.
Right guard, if I got it right.
That's a problem with training camp, especially with fans. It's like so and so. I haven't heard about so and so, and I'm not judging anybody, but I'm like, dude, trench play in training camp is not a thing. Essentially, like they don't do anything. You have to see them joint practices, preseason, and that's how they get judged, man. Because that's when they can go legally hit somebody else and do their
Correct.
damage on somebody else. Like I do see some other teams. There was a team I saw the other day. that was running a pretty physical practice, and I was pretty surprised by it because you don't really see that in camp. But yeah, man, like that's unless your linebackers. I got him confused with one of your linebackers are like catching interceptions or anything like that. You're not going to see them making plays because they're essentially forced to make that offensive guy go by them. You know, like they take their angle and they let him go by. So they don't get really much highlight until preseason or the regular season for that matter. But I was going to ask you a question about your Broncos. Did you guys run your starters out at any point in the preseason, like for a few series, with like Bo running them out there?
Yeah, that came in the second preseason game, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they played. I'm going off of pure memory, so I may
Yeah,
be
it's
wrong,
fine.
but I just want to kind of give you a rough idea. Sean Payton came out with the starters in the first preseason game for 1 to 2 series, and then pulled them right away.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he elevated up the second stringers amongst others. But what he did super interestingly in the last year's preseason is he kept the offensive line starters on the field and then brought in the second string offensive weapons.
Okay. For the
So
backup QBs and stuff.
right, and so I think what he really tried to do for the backup QB was give him the best possible
To succeed.
variation of things to
Yeah, the
succeed
time.
and to say
Yeah.
hey, we're giving you the protection up front and we're giving the running backs the protection up front to kind of potentially run the ball and stuff. So let's see what you can actually do. And I thought that was a really interesting opportunity. Now, they only got 2 series with the starting offensive line, and then they shuffled in the second string offensive linemen. So I wonder if Sean Payton's going to follow through on a similar maybe trajectory for that, which is going to be 4 series for the starting offensive linemen, 2 series for the starting running backs and wide receivers, and then basically the rest of the game for the other guys.
Okay. I don't think we saw our starters in preseason last year. I mean, I think we did. Justin was hurt, so I'm interested to see when they do it because I think that is going to be the plan. I think more and more, like teams got away from playing starters, and then the good teams, the Patriots did it with Tom Brady. Andy does it with Patrick and stuff. They play their starters multiple series, throughout preseason. I doubt this week it's going to happen, but then I did read that some team is playing their starters. I forgot who it was, but they are playing their starters this week, so we'll see. My wife is
All right. So, Jack, I think that's kind of where I'm at with my Denver Broncos. I do think we're going to see some super interesting stuff. I am going to have a pile of notes for us next week on the show. You can expect a lot of analysis from me in terms of what I saw from preseason. I am probably going to be more critical than the mainstream media of my team. But again, if you're fans of the show, that should surprise you about 0%. And we'll go from there. With that in mind, we got some Raider stuff to go over. Jack,
Yes.
take it away.
Raiders.
Yeah, well, and first of all, it's a great problem to have, Richie, with all those wide receivers. Man, it's always good to have too many guys. So I guess I'll kind of start off with that too, of maybe having, too many guys at one position. And I'm just going to go back, with Pete Carroll. Again, he don't care who you are, where you're drafted. It's about competing with Pete Carroll. That's what it's all about. So I just want to start off like with the big trade, that the Raiders had. So last year, Ja'Cory Bennett was the Raiders' #1 cornerback on the team. And so the Raiders, again, with connection with Philadelphia, you look at like who they have. You got Housey Roseman, #1 guy, came over to the Raiders. Now he's the #1 hand of the Raiders. So there's that connection. And when you got a surplus of guys, and for Raider Nation, it's like for us, it's like we kind of thought, hey, we're kind of light in the tooth in a way of like just experience in our cornerback room. And yet we go and trade, a Jacorian Bennett. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit, kind of what led up to, Jacorian Bennett, being available. Because last year he got hurt. I think he missed 7 games with a shoulder injury. And again, your best ability is always your availability. And I'm not sure if he's actually came back, from the shoulder injury. But I will say this is, some of the guys they signed, like JT Woods, who's a tweener between a safety and a corner. And then you get a guy who's a UDFA in Greedy Vance, who's, again, as a UDFA, he is he's shining bright right now. And he's one of the guys that it's you can see him making this squad, and he's, putting up, the lights and the cameras, and he's looking fabulous. So Jacorian Bennett has actually been dropping down, in the rotation between the starters and the second stringers. I don't even know if he's number 3 on the team. Decorian Richardson, who's totally a Pete Carroll's guy, 6'3", 4 threes. He plays corner, and the Raiders got him last year in the 4th round. I kind of see him as the number 3. So that really put Jacorian Bennett at number 4. And then you add 2 more guys that, that add that depth. And it kind of makes, a guy like him attractive, because he was a starting cornerback last year. He's 5'11", but I mean, that's smaller than what Pete Carroll normally wants, but it's not that small.
5'11", though, that's short for Pete, but that's not short for the NFL. 5'11" is probably average for a cornerback, defensive back in the NFL. And you guys already lost one of the guys you brought in too to injury, right? Johnson.
Who?
There was a guy you brought in, and I think he already.
I'll talk about Lonnie too.
Yeah, Lonnie. He's from. Yeah. He's famous. You know why Lonnie's famous, right? He was with that guy.
Carolina.
No, well, before he was that JUCO guy. He was on Netflix. He with Coach JB. He was on the Netflix show. Oh, anyways, but whatever.
So
Jack.
So you got to.
Sorry, hold on. So just real quick on the Bennett thing, you have 2 problems with Bennett. Number 1, the dude's 5'11". Actually, a couple things. You have 3 things.
I don't have a problem with that. I like it.
He's 5'11" and he's 195.
And he runs in the 4 threes.
You're thinking too highly of this.
So
Richie.
He's short and he's light.
No.
What Pete wants though is he wants bigger dudes that are across the board, and the way that he typically likes to have his corners is he wants them to be incredibly intelligent, big, strong, and physical. And the reason why he wants that is he wants them to play basically the type of ball which is, I'm going to read your route I'm going to read your route and get it right, so that when you break, I'm going to backpedal because I know where you're going. And even though I'm bigger and probably slower than you are, I'm going to get to where I need to be in order to make a play, because I've already read the play and therefore going to box you out or do well or those sorts of things. Frankly, Richard Sherman is actually a great example of that. Richard Sherman was not the fastest corner on the field. Richard Sherman, however, was a very bright and physical and large human being on the field at his position. So he was able to read the play and get to where he needed to go in order to make a play on the ball. And he was always physical enough in order to make the play up until the end of his career. Eventually what happened is even though he was good enough to figure out where the play was going, he just simply wasn't athletic enough to get there because he was getting older, and he started from a slower position than most other guys started from. So he wasn't able to make up that speed, and he got burned badly near the end of his career. So that's where Pete Carroll's at.
Usually when guys...
I will say this, again, that's kind of like a Darian Porter, a guy who was Richard Sherman was a wide receiver coming over as a defensive back. You know, a guy that guy's like 6'3", runs a 4.30 flat 40. But here's the connection though. So the trade went down for Thomas Booker. So again, another team, which we all talk about the Eagles, right? The Eagles are very deep at their defensive tackles. So Thomas Booker, 6'3", 301, played in 17 games last year. So he averaged like, a little under 10 snaps a game. But in a way, his athletic ability, like, I forgot what the name of the chart was, but he's off the charts. But he's also got, but there's so many guys on that defensive line. You got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Boro, I don't know how you pronounce the name, Oma, Ajomo, and Ty Robinson. So you got all these other guys that are there. So the Raiders are looking at themselves as Pete Carroll even said that he likes this defensive back room as much as he liked the Legion of Boom, which, all of us are like, whoa, wait a minute. Legion of Boom is legendary. And we kind of, as Raider fans, we're like, not seeing it at the time going, we want even more in the corners. So, you lose Jack Jones, he's gone. And now you got rid of a Bennett. He's gone. So it's like, and then, they replace all their safeties to get bigger safeties. So you can see the fingerprints with Pete Carroll going all over this. Again, a team that ran last year, we talked about it earlier, a 4-2-5. Now it's going to a 4-3-3. It may be 3 linebackers. It may be 3 safeties. We don't know at this point. But it made sense with the connections between the Raiders and, the Philly. Okay, we're going to unload one of our guys that are farther down on the depth chart for one of your guys that are further down on the depth chart. But he actually has more potential to play with the Raiders than he did with the Eagles. But here's something I've heard from a YouTube channel that I trust, which I did not know, and it's not been on any reports, is that, one of their defensive linemen, in the way, give me half a sec, because I always get their names messed up, Jonah Lalu. So after Christian Wilkins is gone, Jonah Lalu was like the next guy to kind of step in. And I heard that, from, again, not from any official channels, but just from a Raider YouTube channel that I trust, is that he was in a boot. So that really, then you're missing like your number 3 defensive tackle. You cut your number 1 defensive tackle. You now have a need at defensive tackle. So at the time, I did not like the trade just because I am a Bennett fan, saw him as a starter. He's improved. But looking, at it right now, I'm like, the trade makes perfect sense. So that was the probably the biggest news, that has happened for the Raiders.
You always need depth on your secondary, especially a quarterback room of proven guys. Like this whole thing that and I'm not attacking you, Jack, but Pete wanting big guys. He's not a Pete guy. He's not a Pete size guy. That's bullshit.
I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm not buying that with Bennett.
No, but I'm saying this is this is us glazing our coaches, right? This is like the fan base glazing our coaches. Richie, you, me, right? Whatever our coach says, we're like, oh yeah, because they're overly hyping everybody up right now. The one thing as being a longtime NFL fan is secondary, in my opinion, is the second hardest position to play on the football field besides quarterback. And if you got a guy who's proven, you don't trade him for some stupid D tackle unless that D tackle is proven, right? Like what you were kind of making a point about. Richie? Yes, it is. This is a passing league essentially now. With the slight emergence of the run game with Derrick Henry, Saquon, stuff like that, secondary is extremely important right now. So if you've got a proven guy, you do not trade him away for a D tackle when is this guy proven? He said, yeah, he played 17 games. So that is proven. I'll give him that. But the guy they traded away was a dude who balled out in Graham's offense. And look, I saw Nav's thing saying, it was due to injury, right? He was forced in that position due to injury. He still performed, right? And he got hurt for 7 games for a shoulder injury. Like, shit happens, man. That's why you need these guys, because they get hurt a lot, because these cornerbacks have to make those tackles in the perimeter, things like that. They come down hard. Stuff happens. I'm a big fan of teams carrying a lot of secondary. Like, to me, I didn't like the trade. I thought it was lopsided. I thought Howie Roseman fleeced Spycheck, and we're just going to have to see throughout the season. Howie Roseman does this. The Eagles, he's the best GM in the league.
Well, he is definitely one of the best defensive, or best, GMs in the league. But you got to remember, Anthony Patch was his right-hand man in Philadelphia, and now he's on the Raiders. So
so now they're doing each other favors. That's fucking cool.
I don't know what. Again, I just think there's that connection, right? So since Anthony Patch probably had a part of bringing him in, he's seen what the player can do. So again, when you get him, dropping down on the depth chart, and you see a need where a player probably can get more playing time, because I mean, when you got a Jordan Davis and then a Carter, you're not going to get a ton of playing time. I mean, that defensive front is that good. So it took me a moment to soak it in and really kind of understand like what's going on with that situation. Yeah, it's like I didn't like it at first, but the more I read into the situation, again, you lose Christian Wilkins. Your number 2 guy, behind him is now in a walking boot. So you're talking your 2 of the top 3 guys may or may not be there for the start of the season, or one's definitely not there. But the other one, who knows? If he's in a walking boot, I haven't heard anything official, but we'll see.
Well, I didn't know about the walking booth guy, but can you project your like top 3 cornerbacks to start right now?
Oh yeah, that's easy. So
okay.
you got Eric Stokes out there. You got Darian Porter. You got Kerryon Richardson, and who I mentioned is like who's been impressing, who they signed in free agency, was JT Woods, and then
he's
a guy.
Trash. He's trash. Take it from me. He's trash.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how he plays on my team. He's been impressive so far.
No.
And then wait. Then the last guy is Greedy Vance, who is not a Pete Carroll UDFA, right? He's only 5'9", but he plays the slot corner, which we only have one other guy that really plays slot corner.
I don't know. I just thought
he's gonna get torched.
You had a starting caliber guy.
We'll see.
Right? Look,
he's done.
Look, you had a starting caliber guy. You trade him away for another guy who was a starter depth guy, right? But the guy you traded away was a day 1 starter, in my opinion.
Well, maybe not for my team.
Not for Pete, right? Not for Pete, but
yeah, not for Pete.
Last I checked, this is Luke. So it's like, is this Pete's defense or is this Graham's defense, right? So,
well, here's the thing. So talking about that, I kind of brought that up, right? We talked about it earlier with the linebackers and so forth. So again, traditionally, Patrick Graham is a 4-2-5 guy. He likes to only rush 4. But Pete Carroll is a 4-3-4 type guy. So everything they brought in has been guys that do the 4-3. And, they had a scrimmage against themselves. So they had the Raiders' number 1 offense against the Raiders' number 2 defense. The number 1 defense versus the number 2 offense. And so they were running a lot of 4-3s. They were mixing it up. So it's going to be so interesting to see, with Seattle when this game comes up. What are they really going to do? It's like they want to mix it up and, run that 4-3, but is it going to be with linebackers? It's going to be with safeties. It's what they've trended towards. So Patrick Graham is converting what he's done over the years that we've seen over and over and over again to going with not only the players, because you look at this team, that defense has been gutted. I mean, you got rid of both your starting cornerbacks. You got rid of both your safeties. You got rid of both your linebackers, and now they're starting from scratch. So to know what I can expect. So I don't have a lot, talk, when we come up to playing Seattle tomorrow.
I mean, that Wilkins thing did put you guys.
Oh, that killed me.
Yeah, so I get that aspect of it. I just, I don't know. Maybe I just favor cornerbacks. I don't know.
I do love me some good
Well, you can
cornerbacks.
just
That's
kiss
for sure.
Wilkins goodbye. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, but then I didn't, and then I guess I might have mistaken, didn't hear you, but you're saying now another one of your D tackles is in a boot, so there's another
But I don't
bind.
know. I mean, like I said, DZ, it's like, that's what I heard on one of the other pods, but I have not heard that from the official Raiders website. So I'm like, I'm questioning that part. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But,
These
yeah.
Raider Shield, that is like 50-50. Half cornerbacks in the league miss tackles, and they're great in the pass game. The other half commit to tackling. Believe me, dude, these guys are 5'10", and they don't want to tackle. They usually get out of the way for an offensive lineman or a running back coming down their throat. It's very rare that you have a willing tackling cornerback, and when you do get them, they get hurt. And like I said, I have Cam Hart on my team, who I love to death.
I love Cam Hart too.
Because he's a gangster in tackling and he likes to thump dudes, but the dude's on his 4th shoulder injury. That's why I look at cornerbacks. I'm like, all right, when he's healthy, hell yeah, start him. But we know he's going to get hurt.
That's kind of what Nab's kind of saying too. And what I'm saying is that, DeCorian missed 7 games last year because of shoulder injury. And it pops in and out. And Pete Carroll wants guys that are going to tackle. And if you can't tackle, then you will drop down on that depth chart, and that's kind of what's happened. I'm not going to knock DeCorian Bennett at all. I really like the kid. I followed him, from day one when he got drafted, rooted for the kid. But Pete Carroll is, taking over. He wants guys, again, tall, lanky, fast, but you got to be able to tackle. And, I don't know what DeCorian is like, can he really keep doing that to where he can keep tackling and not crush that shoulder?
I'm telling you right now, with your current configuration of your cornerback room and who you have, et cetera, you are going to get eaten alive in the middle of the field. You're going to get destroyed. And this is why. 5'9" corners worked really, really well about 6 to 7 or 8 years ago, and that was when they started to fade. And the reason is that most teams, and I mean the majority of teams now in the slot position, they're no longer using the Wes Welker style wide receiver as the slot guy. They're using guys like Jerry Jeudy. They're using guys like Pat Bryant. They're using guys like Travis Kelce. They're using guys like George Kittle. They're using dudes that are
like Brock Bowers.
Evan Ingram for you this season.
Evan Ingram in the
or Jack Besh, the Raiders number 2 pick,
Right. So my point being is that you're going to be using a dude who is at the shortest end of the scale, 6'1", and on
I was saying that with Greedy Vance, who's on the last of the last of the guys, like a UDFA, who can make the roster. Not going to say he's going to start, because you got a Thomas Harper that's also out there, which again, one of my Notre Dame guys who can play that slot position, but he's impressed that much to where it made this possible, depth wise.
My point being, Jack, is that when you lose a guy who is a competent starter, and I mean a legitimate competent starter in the NFL, in Bennett, and you're trying to replace him with a smaller, shorter, less.
Oh no, he's not going to replace him. He's on the back end of the roster. Like I said, you got to look who's actually, taking over. It's Eric Stokes.
Jack, the question was, who is the starters for your team in the cornerback position by DZ? Your comment that you made.
Darnay Holmes, Darian Porter, Eric Stokes.
No, Eric Stokes and Porter are going to be there. And like I said, Pete Carroll's going to the 4-3-3.
Looks like
that's a good question.
Is
Right
it
now,
Porter?
it's if you want to say pure slot starter, it's Darnay Holmes or Harper. But I don't see them guys playing a lot in that position. They're going to be moving guys into that, like a Jeremy Chin. And, and then they're also going to be who they bring over? What's his name? Oh my God, I'm drawing a mental blank on his name. Played for Seattle, 3-time Pro Bowler. Like, they're going to use him specially, as a third linebacker. He moved from safety to linebacker, and he's going to get some play in that role. And give me a half second. I'll look him up if he's on there. No, he's not on this updated.
Jack, you're so right, Jack. I'm looking at your guys' roster right now, just of the cornerbacks. And Pete must have he's like, hey, man, if you don't have a 6 next to your name,
height,
your starting height,
yeah,
you just don't talk to me. I'm looking at them. They're all at least 6 foot and above. Well, Greedy Vance, 5'9". Okay, so there's your outlier, right? But everybody else except for Greedy Vance in that secondary is above 6 foot.
Yeah, it's like, I was kind of surprised with Greedy Vance. It's like, he's a UDFA. I didn't have my, mind on him at all. When you got guys like Mello Dobson, another UDFA, that was out there. It's like, but he's making an impression, and he's a slot corner. So it's like, I talked about Hilton, from
Darnay Holmes. Sorry, Darnay Holmes is 5'10". My bad. Anyways,
yeah.
But
well, Clinton Hilton is like, a guy last year from Cincinnati. I wanted the Raiders to go after. He may only be 5'9", 5'10", but he played extremely well. Is like one of the best, slot corners in the game. So I looked at it, but they didn't even bring him in. So again, they're going to rotate linebackers, and right there, Navman, Jamal Adams. So that's another guy that's going to be, again, the 4-3-4 that they're going to have that in that role. So I find that really interesting for the Raiders. But, kind of, one thing that you met, DZ, you brought up Lonnie Johnson.
Yeah.
So, again, with the Raiders' number 1 defense playing against the Raiders' number 2 offense, the number 1 Raiders offense playing against the Raiders' number 2 defense, I don't know what happened, but Lonnie Johnson and Max Crosby got tangled up, and he broke his fibula. So, that's no small injury. And at first, I was thinking, and I think everyone in Raider Nation was thinking, that he was done for the season. So I'm hearing, from Pete and his pressers, like he may be out to week 3, week 4 with that. I think that's really I think that's, way too early. I think, possibly for me coming after the bye week, is when I can kind of see him back. And they're talking about keeping him, on the roster. So right now, again, TJ Woods could be that guy. It's like they brought in 3 guys today. I'm like trying to remember who they are. I don't know these guys. Terrell Edmonds, who was a 1st-round pick by the Steelers, number 28. Yeah, Mekhi Gardner, JB Mayers. I don't know those guys, to be honest with you.
Terrell Edmonds is he's a journeyman.
Jack, just to give you an idea, so my doctor here referred to me as a freak in terms of how fast I healed. I healed in 5 weeks.
Wolverine genes.
I healed fully in 5 weeks.
Even if it was broken, you would still play.
If we see Richie have things come out of his fists, then we know what's going on.
No, but the thing is that I've broken my leg twice. The same one, I've broken both bones in the lower part of my leg. So you're talking the fibula and the tibula. So the fibula is the smaller of the 2 bones. It's the small bone on the lower part of your leg, and then
that was the tibia.
And no, it's the tibula and fibula, and then there's the femur. That's the top part.
Oh, and femur's the big one. Yeah.
Yeah, femur's the big one in the top part of your leg. It's a singular. It's a singular bone that's in the upper part of your leg, and then you have the fibula and the tibula in the lower part of your leg. The tibula is the larger, and the fibula is the smaller. So the fibula kind of goes a bow, and then the tibula kind of is the straight, larger of the 2 bones. I've broken both. I've shattered both, so I know very well.
Shattered.
Yeah. Wow. So I've shattered both.
I broke my tibia.
All right, so how long did it take you to get back?
5 weeks.
Okay, so then there's a possibility.
No. But my doctor was very clear. He said, I specialize in sports medicine. He said, you were 36 years old and you healed in 5 weeks. You're a freak. Like
Dude, what the hell?
He literally said, you're in your upper 30s and you healed in 5 weeks. You are
Richie's
abnormal.
injected himself with like full vitamin D milk.
So
no 2%. Just
yeah. So the point,
Wolverine right there.
The point being is
he's
that
also Canadian, by the way.
I am. But the point being is that, and I had a beard by the time I was in grade 8. So I mean, I like, I'm just, it is what it is.
Dude, Richie, I broke my tibia and fibia. It took me 3 months, man. I don't know how the hell you 5 weeks. That's nuts.
5 weeks. So I shattered. So the tibia, which is the tibia rather, which is the larger bone, or tibia rather, in the bottom part of your leg, and then the fibula, which is the smaller bone. So the tibia, I literally shattered. So I had what's called a compound spiral fracture with multiple fractures off of both parts. That healed in 5 weeks straight. I was out of the cast in 5 weeks after surgery, 2 surgeries. And I had the
crazy.
fibia. No, it's a tibia. No L. And then the fibula, which does have the L in it, is the smaller bone, which is in the lower part of your leg. So your lower leg has 2 bones, a smaller bone and a larger bone. The smaller bone, I literally shattered it. Like it was in just in absolute just small pieces. That took 5 weeks to heal fully. Now you're not in a position even at that point where you would ever really want to take full impact of basically a car crash. Like, just because you zip it, Raider. Just
nap.
Just because Tennessee is not far enough away. The impact that you're going to take in a football game, there's a few different factors here that need to be factored in here. So Jack, number one, when you take the impact of another human hitting your lower leg, which is really what's going to happen for most of these dudes, at any kind of full impact, your bone, while it's healed, is not hardened properly at that point. Your body has to go through additional healing processes to actually have it hardened to a point where you can absorb the impact of someone like a full-sized 200 and some odd pound person.
It was more
mental
leg. For me, Richie. It was like, for me to trust my leg again, it was all up here. That took the longest time.
It is 100% mental, but then there's also just the general concept of the physical impact. Like, your body is healed, but the problem is that your bone hasn't actually solidified fully yet. It's fully healed, and your bone is now a single kind of unit, if you will.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you haven't had the hardened tissue, or what's called the callus, as part of the healing process. I don't know if you're my doctor went right into it with me because he knew I was going to be an idiot and do something crazy, and he was right. Yeah. But it is what it is. And so when you get that callus over the bone, then you're able to absorb that additional impact when you get that physical hit. So you need to
you're
wait.
Getting hit by Mack trucks. That's why I was saying I don't see him coming back. What Pete said, week 3 or week 4 as the free safety. That's why I was thinking week 7, week 8.
When did he break his leg?
Oh, just in the joint, like the practice.
It's like
the Raiders.
Like
the Raiders. Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking 4 weeks and then another 3. The answer to that is no. You're going to run the risk of that dude getting hurt again. So you have another element there, Jack, that needs to be factored into things. So sports medicine has progressed a lot. And so, for example, the traditional medicine for the average person, your doctor is going to tell you to not put any weight on it and not force mobility. For these football players, because their doctors are driven both by team money as well as actual medicine as to what's actually good for you, not what is the least amount of liability, the best thing for you as an individual when you break your leg or break your foot is to actually put weight on it at about week 3.5 to 4, because your body forces the healing process faster when you're actually starting to use your
Yeah,
foot
they
and use
want you
your
to
leg.
walk on it.
And they
Yeah.
actually want you to put weight and walk on it because your body heals itself faster that way. But what you also lose as part of that process, because you're walking in it in a boot, you're not walking on it free form, you're walking in it in one of those air casts, is you don't get the small muscle buildup that you would otherwise get when you walk properly or normally in it when you're walking in that air
I had
cast.
so much atrophy.
And so you end up with muscle atrophy. So Jack, to
Yeah.
to
Yep.
your point earlier, and I'm actually agreeing with you, but I think it's important that the nuance detail be added in there. I have the benefit of having done it more than once. In fact, I still have my air cast sitting in a closet upstairs because it's a matter of time before I do something stupid again. Uh, so it just is what it is.
Well, you probably will, Richie. It's like, almost like, I want to ask a question, but I don't want to ask the question yet. It's like almost like, what bone have you not broken in your body practically?
My left leg.
So mine is
That's
the
like the
left
one
leg.
healthy part of your body.
My left leg.
I
I have broken every single bone in both of my hands at least once. Like at least once. And then I broke my right leg, both bones in the lower section. I broke my left arm. So I haven't broken my right arm in any part, and I haven't broken my left leg. So aside from those, I've broken pretty much most other, like both hands and my right leg. I've broken both lower bones, like not just badly, but like very badly.
That's crazy, dude. I don't want to break any more bones. It's not fun, man. It's annoying.
So,
God. I broke my tailbone. There's no cast for that. That was horrible.
And to
yeah,
my
you don't sit
knowledge,
down
I
very
haven't
often with
broken
that one.
anything in my. And to my knowledge, I haven't broken anything in my face either. Although I have taken both feet and steel-toed boots to the face. But I've never broken anything to my knowledge.
That is assault, brother.
Yeah, right.
So
So I'll leave it with these two pieces. So one thing that was really kind of odd, seeing it today, my ex-head coach, Antonio Pierce,
Oh God, yes.
visited the
Yes.
Kansas City Chiefs
Ooh.
with his when he played as a player, their defensive coordinator was the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. And it's like, the one thing that's kind of like, it hurt, but I get it though. You know what I mean?
You saw what he was rocking too.
That's what
He
I was just going to say, brother.
Head to toe, man.
In KC gear, it's like, oh my God, as a Raider, and it's like, as a head coach, even when he was like with the New York Giants, and they were playing the Raiders, and like, one of his teammates was talking smack. He's like, don't talk smack against my team. And to see him in KC gear, oh man, that was hurtful. That was hurtful, but
This man, it's an almighty green dollar, dude.
You know what? But at the same time, I wish him the best. Once you're a Raider in our history, you're always a Raider, and he is a true Raider. And he has one of the coolest things that, kind of, on all bunch of Raider shows, even, insiders, when he calls out, saying Raiders, it's his voice. So I'm glad for him. I hope he gets a job out of it. It just sucks. It has to be with KC, but I do respect the man. So no, well, AP a turd. No, Nav, he's not a turd. Okay, red turd. I like that. But no, he's not a turd. But yeah, that was definitely, interesting to see. And, I hope he actually latches on. But with the Raiders, the last thing I want to talk about, the Raiders with big time free agents. And I'm not going to go too far back because we're at the 2 hour and 14 minute mark. But you look at Devontae Adams, you give up first and second rounder for him. How'd that turn out? You signed Christian Wilkins to a 4-year, $110 million deal. How did that work out?
Well, you kissed him goodbye.
Well, we did, because you know what?
There's a joke in there somewhere.
On the forehead.
I'm not getting the joke, but maybe you can say it off screen. But here's the thing: we got lucky in one aspect, I think. Again, with Tom Telesco, if you do anything with Tom Telesco, you're going to be hurt. And I look at it right now, with Matthew Stafford. So before Geno, the Raiders were all in on Stafford. Stafford right now is got a lower back injury and has not partaked on anything that the Rams have done. And so, so it's going to be like, okay, when your tailbone DZ, back issues, that is like something when it hurts, you can't move. So it's like they got him on the PUP list right now. So who knows when he's going to come back?
Dude.
And actually play again?
Did you hear the things that Stafford's wife said about him publicly?
No. Is she TMI? She give out too much information?
Let's just put it this way. If that was me, I have 2 words: divorce attorney.
Oh my God. So
The answer to that is no.
Does she have a podcast or something? I don't really care.
She there's just certain lines that I just don't believe that one should cross. Like, even if she has that opinion, she has to learn to kind of keep that stuff to herself.
Yeah, she's one of those.
It is an unacceptable approach to have when you speak about your significant other in that way. And frankly, I agree. I think that goes both ways. I think that as a guy, you shouldn't be speaking
100%.
about your spouse in a certain way. And I think that as
airing each other's dirty laundry, man, is not the way to go, dude.
And she basically was like, I forced him to chase me, and she was basically insinuating that she was like better than him and all this other kind of stuff, and like just little things like that are just like completely unacceptable. And she was like, and I was having sex with somebody else, and da 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 da. And it's like,
really?
What? Oh yeah. Like a whole lot of other stuff. And I was like, that's a no dice thing for me.
Matt Stafford, to me, I agree 100%. He's one of the best ball spinners in the league right now. But yeah, with his back, they're saying that he might need, take epidurals. That's what they give pregnant women, right? Like, where it just numbs everything, for his back. But now
he might need some smelling salts too.
Probably, but with you, if you have a disc, like I think it's a bulging disc or whatever it is, I'm hearing now that people are, because back problems, thank God, knock on wood, I have not had back problems, but it seems to happen more commonly with men, as they age. But as with a quarterback, they're planting. That spine is so effing important, man, especially throwing and stuff. Like, this might be, done for Stafford with this, or unless they rest him and let it heal somewhat naturally, which I hear is the best course these days. But do they have that time to wait? Like, is Jimmy G going to be able to carry this team? I freaking highly doubt it.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jimmy D too. It's like Nav. So you had that surgery. How long? So as you putting yourself in Stafford's shoes, it's like you had that surgery. And when you got guys that are 300, 330 pounds, hitting on your body, as an older guy, I mean, what type of time frame are you thinking? I'm just kind of curious. And you look at that contract. I mean, the Raiders offered him like $50 million. And it's like, boy, we got Geno for like 36, 37, somewhere-ish in there for just a couple years.
Jack,
so it's like,
the answer to that question. So my father's had what's called a spinal fusion surgery, which is before they actually did the disc replacement. So my father right now is in absolute constant pain. Although he would never admit to it, but he's in absolute constant pain as a result of the spinal fusion surgery. Most guys that go through this spinal surgeries, if they do a disc replacement or any variation thereof, they will only do that now if it's a last resort, because you're doing that surgery to get you back to a normal state. but you're
Mhm.
never going to want to be putting yourself in a position where you're going to be putting yourself through the same rigor that you were before. Like, if you know what I mean. Like, the point is the OG disc is never going to be like, is always the best option for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is designed to allow that spine to shift and move and all the other kind of stuff properly. Anything that you're getting as a replacement is to get you back to a sense of normalcy, but you never want to put yourself through the same rigor and the same aggressiveness that you did before, at least in a jolting motion where you're going to be putting yourself where your spine can get
Dude, and
malaligned.
no one's saying, and who knows, like with his spine, like if he loses feelings in his hands or feet or something like that, because it's all connected. So it's like if that
Mhm.
happens, that's a extremely huge red flag, especially for a guy that holds onto a football for a living, right? Like
Right.
this is unfortunate because Stafford, like I hate the Rams. Do not like them whatsoever. But
Until they play in your stadium.
well, it's we play in their stadium, but I just don't like them. I think they're corny, whatever. Anyways, I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's one of the best ball spinners, like I said, in the league right now today.
Agreed.
He's kind of one of that he was in that middle era of that golden age of quarterback. He came in. It's like him and Rodgers are still left, right? You know, of those last remaining kind of old school quarterbacks. So I really don't want to see him go out like this, especially with the Rams are looking to take over the West, the NFC West. I was at work 2 weeks after surgery. I immediately feeling better right after the surgery. Just disconnected me.
So what he had there, from what I'm reading between the lines,
Wow.
Nav, correct me if I'm wrong. What that sounds like to me is they either lasered a jagged part of your spinal bone that was actually impacting your disc and causing you pain, and they smoothed out the bottom part of the bone to make it normal again so that you weren't in pain as a result of the friction of the bone. It's almost like a form of, it's not like arthritis, but it's very similar to it,
I
where
have
your
two
disc,
bone spurs in one of my
yeah,
vertebrae in my neck.
right. And so a bone spur and that sort of thing, it sounds is very similar from what I'm gathering from what Nav is saying here, which is you have a jagged part or a similar thing, which is kind of like arthritis, and you basically end up with this kind of like, not bone on bone, but what you're getting is you're getting a sharp, jagged part of bone that's digging into soft cartilage and tissue, which is incredibly pain. Oh, so you had a herniated disc segment. So that's interesting. So that's the invert of what I just said. So the disc was malaligned, and then they smoothed out the disc to get it back to normal, so that the bone wasn't shifting kind of funky. It was actually shifting smoothly again, which is
And that's
super
crazy
interesting.
because don't they would have to come in through the stomach side, right? Because right, I don't think they go through or do they go through the muscle? Because my mother-in-law had her neck fused, and they have to go in through this way because of all the
Correct.
muscle in the back. That's creepy,
Yeah.
dude. And it's
Yeah.
broken bones. That's cool, but your
Yeah.
spine, that's a whole another ball game, dude. No bueno.
So Nav, you gotta be feeling better, because I know you're riding quads all day. So I'm glad that those surgeries must have gone well, because I otherwise,
Right.
as a
Jack, you're
54-year-old man like you.
you're talking about different stuff, though, which is what my
He's a
point
country
is.
boy.
Yeah, I'm
And
not a doctor, and I don't claim to be one. I don't play one
no,
even on
but
TV.
no, but no, but the point is, what Nav had is a herniation, and what he's saying is that the sciatic nerve. So he had basically a form of sciatica, which is they basically removed the section that is rubbing and pressing up against the nerve, which is causing the sharp pain that's going down a lot of the times down your leg. But if Stafford is having similar issues to that, depending on the circumstances, there's only so far they can take it before it's a risk for him to have additional injuries as a result of the surgery
Yeah.
itself. And then there's also the issue of once you start altering, um, Raider Shield. I
There we go.
appreciate the explanation. My I'm good with the medical stuff. I've been around it long enough, and I've had enough injuries myself, as well as friends that have been like mortally injured with things, that I know my way around the medical stuff. It's just once I get enough information, I can actually kind of like steer us in the right direction of the conversation. Um, but
That's pretty
so yeah,
scary, Richie.
it is what it is, my man. But the thing with Stafford though is so, for example, when you end up with your disc, so it's if it's your disc or the bone, it really all depends on what it is. Your sciatic kind of goes all the way down from the top of your neck all the way down your spine, and then ends up branching off into two sections down your leg, and there's two different nerves that go down that way, and it's all connected as part of your sciatic system. And what you end up with is the potential pinching of that nerve, which causes excruciating pain and numbness. Like, and I mean like excruciating pain and numbness.
Yeah.
And the thing is that for folks like Nav, and my grandmother had a similar surgery. She had her surgery at 91.
Oh wow.
Okay. And
Dang.
and they are the shock absorbers between. Nav, you're exactly correct that the disc are the shock absorbers, but the discs are also the things that allow the physical movement within the bones themselves, because they're the things that allow the bones to actually shift around, and then your muscle is actually what keeps muscles and tendons and whatnot also keep everything together. But for Stafford, for example, if they start mucking around with discs and bones and shaving off certain things, you run the risk of like dislocation. You run the risk of completely malalignment. You run the risk of a whole host of things, and some of those risks will include, and I promise you this for sure, and I'm sure a doctor will probably come on one of the NFL shows and go into these details as they're talking about Stafford. If he goes for a proper surgery, he runs the risk of actual paralyzation.
Uh,
Um,
oh,
because you can end up with, like you were saying, Jack, with a 300-pound guy, you can run the risk of that guy completely shifting your back with all the alterations that you've had as a result of the laser surgeries. And if it weakens it enough, he can end up in a position where, he may not walk again. So I'm sure that that's probably why he hasn't had the surgery, which is he's holding off for retirement, where he's going to be put in a position where he doesn't have to run the risk of the physical abuse on the field of the paralyzation component. So he's
I mean,
looking for pain-free, right?
and a caveat on that, real quick, is this was kind of like their year, the Rams' year. They brought over Devontae Adams. They've got a stacked defensive line unit. They've got weapons. Puka, right? They did get rid of Cooper Kupp or whatever. But, if you just look back to last year, they were just this close from beating the Eagles. So, this is an important year, especially with how the Niners look and the rebuilding of the Seahawks.
Yeah. Yep. Cardinals. So
But
I,
the
I, I
Cardinals
want
could
to
be
bring up a
frisky
funny.
now.
I'm going to bring up a funny. I'm going to kind of reel this back in. So part of the reason why Devontae Adams wanted to leave the Raiders, because we all know he came over for Derek Carr, right? But Derek Carr got cut, and then he had to play with Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, guess who's the backup for the Rams? It's Jimmy G. And then it's kind of funny, before this injury was made known, he's like, oh, which he made it known on the Raiders. Yeah, it was part of it. He wanted, AOC 12 to play. And now it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and now it's saying it's not. But we all know as Raider fans that's false. I want to bring up two more points. I, again, can't wrap it up just yet. Big things.
Jack.
Big things. So I saved this to last. So we all know what I think. What Raider Nation, what you guys think of JPJ. So when they had that scrimmage, JPJ was not the starting center.
I did see that.
JPJ is at right guard, and not only is he at right guard, but he's splitting time with Alex Kappa, which is blowing everybody in Raider Nation away. So when JPJ does play at center, I don't know if he's having a hard time with Chip Kelly's scheme or whatever, but Alex Kappa, when he starts at right guard, is actually calling the plays, not JPJ. He's the one calling out the protections. So I find that super interesting. We can talk about that later. And the other thing, which I heard I saw this on Raiders.com. brought up by, again, a show I trust, they're showing Dylan Parham, which the guy was a converted tight end coming over, started with the Raiders against your Chargers, the first game at center, got blown up, moved over to left guard, played okay, and then moved over to right guard last year. And, you know, the thing we talked about is being kind of light in the caboose. Man, when he came out, you know, from college, he was 284. Right now, they have him listed at 332 pounds.
Wow.
I'm like, is that even humanly possible?
Holy
I mean,
crap.
you know, we're going into his last year of his rookie contract. So year
just
4.
sit there at night just eating Haagen-Dazs? Like how does that? You drink butter?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It blew me away because when they put Merritt at that center, the reason why they said they did that, because Merritt is like at 290 pounds. So it's like, okay, if we're going to put him somewhere, again, Andre James, Parham, those guys were all about the same weight. They all played some center. So they moved him over, and that's part of the reason why I'm hearing about JPJ moving over, because, you know, he's in like the 320s, 330s. So I found that to be very interesting. I'm definitely going to be watching more on that. It's like, but it's kind of almost unbelievable.
I'm angry with you, Jack.
So this is the time of year. Well, this is the time of year where teams are going to try guys at different spots to see if they have the right guys in the right positions. I wouldn't necessarily read too much into it. Now, where I
said that last week.
Yeah, where I would be concerned is if you start coming into the starting positions and things like that, and you don't see JPJ at center or some variation of that. But Jack, you know what's great about things? You're going to find out right quick where things stand because you have a game coming
tomorrow,
up this coming weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So you're going to start finding out real quick if all of these concerns are for naught or if it's actually a legitimate thing that you should be maybe keeping an eye on. I don't think it's going to be an issue for you. I think it's just simply the team trying to diversify their team and to kind of make sure they have the right guys in the right spots. That's my opinion of it. I think that the Broncos are doing some similar things. And frankly, we saw DZ's team have a whole host of practices with a whole host of dudes all over the place. And then you saw a bunch of guys that were exactly where they should have been. So like, this is not really something that it should be a shock to anybody. So I think this is what we're going to see going forward. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap us up for the show. We are going to go in team by team, game by game, practice by practice information next week. We're going to break it all down for you, give us a full recap of the first preseason game. This is proper football. This is what we all want to see. We want to see how our draft picks are doing. We want to see this is, as they call it, hopium. This is the, you know, we're all
optimistic.
We're all the optimism kind of runs amok and runs wild. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have players that you want us to talk about, hit us up on social media. My X account here is directly below. I go by the same handle on pretty much all social media platforms. So if you see that handle, I guarantee it's probably me. DZ Wilson, you can catch him on his new YouTube channel. There'll be some Chargers stuff coming out soon. And then we got Jack Kenna, who joins us to give us his Raiders content. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll do us for the show for today. And we will see you next Wednesday with a whole whack of new information about our respective teams, where the West Side is the best side. Peace!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute, work hard for the car.